Hey everybody, welcome back to episode 12 of Split Screen Media. I'm joined with me as always, co-host Chris Blankenship. How you doing?
Good.
And with us this week is, I said it before, but the man, the myth, the legend, straightcheekz, otherwise known as Chris from AGN. How you doing, man?
Hi, Connor. It's so good to see you again, even though it's just virtual.
I know. I would love to do one of these in person at some point, but thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, for sure. Do you want to go in a little bit more detail about what AGN is and
Sure,
what you guys do?
Yeah, so AGN is Anime Gaming Network. You can find our website at agnonline365.com. And basically, we're kind of like a news organization that covers everything nerdy and news-wise, if that makes sense. I'm one of their content creators, and I'm also the manager of AGN. So I kind of create like templates, video stuff. So I do a lot of streams on Twitch at straightcheekz, and the same thing for like my YouTube, TikTok, Twitter. It's like all straightcheekz branding, and I literally have a fan base, and I call them my straight mates. But we'll get a little bit more into that later. But I'm so thankful to be here on Split Screen Media with both Chris and Connor. I listened to a couple of their podcasts sometimes, and they were great. And I'm just so happy to be here.
Yeah, and everything you just talked about, all that for everybody listening, I'll leave that in the description. You guys can go check out Chris and AGN. I was looking at your Facebook page a little bit earlier, and it seems like it's a lot like what we do, except you guys are just more on it. You're able to.
Well, we have a whole team. So like, I don't know how much I can say because we signed NDAs literally like this year. But we have a whole team of people who are like content creators, journalists, and we have them subcategorized. So each one is like a specialization. So somebody specializes in gaming journalism, another person specializes in Xbox journalism, another person does like anime. So we have a lot of people in that sense. And then we just recently brought on a lot of new content creators. And I think like the most best thing about this is it's a very diverse group of people. Like you either have like a bunch of like dudes from comicbook.com, and with this one it's like female led, but it's also like I hate saying the word PC, but it's very diverse. Like literally you could see yourself represented in AGN. We have Black men. I'm the only Asian American or like mixed person. But we have like a ton of people, like we have Black men and women, we have like white people. It's just like so diverse, and it shows in the content that we cover as much of that stuff as possible. We recently just wrapped up our first interview with the guy who just did like the Menwat meme, and if you don't know what that is, it was like this viral sensation on TikTok and Twitter where he was playing this Mortal Kombat character, and he was like, "Yes, queen, yes, yes, oh, work, 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 work." So like it was really cool having that experience. And then next month I'll actually be interviewing somebody called Black Crystal Cosplay. So we try and like get not only just the big news and stuff from like Sony, Xbox and stuff, but we also try to reach out to like content creators and people in the community like us who have a voice and have a platform and want to be able to like uplift their voice and platform and give the people a little bit more information on like what caused them to like film this or what caused them to like post certain things.
Yeah, and that's great. And it's always nice, I think, to have that perspective from a bunch of different people, because what I like about your guys is whatever content you guys decide to put up, it seems like you're giving the news and you're giving it straight and you're laying out all the facts, but then there's also a lot of interesting perspective that I being just a white dude, I wouldn't necessarily think of, or I wouldn't necessarily have that perspective on something. And it's always important to sort of branch out and see what other people think and feel, which is what I really like about AGN as a whole. But we're really excited to have you, and yeah, we're looking forward to see what you do next. But one of the things I noticed that you guys talked about a little bit, you were talking about there was a post about Nintendo. I think it was maybe kind of a top 5 games that came out, or it was something like a year in roundup for Nintendo. And I kind of wanted to do something similar, and then maybe also talk about the future of Nintendo, like what they're planning on doing for this next year.
Hey, Connor.
Yeah.
Do you care if and Chris, do you care if I throw it up? I have AGN Online up on my laptop. I can throw it on the screen.
Free. Yeah, feel free.
Yeah, just so we can share the Facebook page, so everybody can kind of.
I was on
go for it.
Their website here. But I guess this is the articles. I clicked on Nintendo and I think I found the article right here. Is this the one you were talking about?
Yes, that's exactly what I was talking about.
Oh yeah, so Emerald, she's one of our journalists.
Yeah, so it was like a top 5 Nintendo Switch thing, and which was really interesting because there were a lot of games that came out. This Hades, I know that was a really big one that I still want to play.
We'll go through it real quick. Hades, Animal Crossing New Horizons, Pokemon Sword and Shield, Octopath Traveler. I don't know what that is. And then Luigi's Mansion 3 is what she has.
Yeah, so a lot of those I own Luigi's Mansion 3. I just still haven't played it. But yeah, a few of those were, it was like DLC that came out, but there wasn't really a ton of big games besides Animal Crossing. And I would say I think all of us kind of agree that this year for Nintendo in terms of content, in terms of game, AAA first party titles was pretty lacking. A lot of that was due to COVID. A lot of that was due to the rumored Switch Pro that's coming out, like the next version of the Switch, or maybe even a whole new console, where they're probably going to just dump a bunch of games at a Nintendo Direct coming up pretty soon of all the stuff that's coming out. And then they also had the controversy recently with the Super Smash Brothers thing, which if you guys don't know, there's a competitive tournament for the GameCube game Super Smash Brothers Melee. And basically what happened is a community of them who can't get together right now because of COVID decided to mod the game through Dolphin and through a bunch of other emulators, and they modded it so that you can play it online so they could still have these tournaments. And Nintendo sent out a cease and desist and shut everything down, and it was super unnecessary because really all it was people enjoying their product. It's not like Nintendo is losing their money or it's risking their IP or their information or whatever it is. I think really all it was is Nintendo is upset that a 20-year-old game is still is still played in tournaments, and they're upset that their newer games aren't, that they can't, like Smash Ultimate has some tournaments, but not nearly as much as Melee has. And people were really upset at Nintendo about that. But I guess, looking at this year and seeing how kind of abysmal it was in terms of content, I was hoping maybe you guys, because I know, Chris, you just got a Switch recently, and other Chris, you also have a Switch.
Yeah.
So I was wondering what you guys maybe were hoping for the future of Nintendo. What games you want to see, if you would be excited for a Switch Pro. What do you guys think?
Can I defend Sony on the Smash stuff real quick? If I can I try?
Yeah, sure. Do you mean Sony or do you mean Nintendo?
Nintendo, I'm sorry.
Oh, no, you're fine. You're fine.
So Super Smash is their IP, and I think they have the right to say, hey, you can't do. I mean, like any emulator, any company can be like, that's not, we won't allow that. It's not, you don't have the rights to do that. We have the rights to this property. The other thing is, if you're doing tournaments on that stuff, you can't really call the tournaments official because you're playing over the internet, right?
It's still, they got it to a point, like they got the software to a point where it was pretty much lag free.
Okay.
So you could still consider it like tournament regulate. Like there was very minimal amounts of lag or anything that people could dispute later. Like, oh, something glitched out and he won because of that or whatever. There wasn't.
Okay.
It was more, and I think to your point, it was less of a tournament and more of like, hey, we can't do this year, so let's just get together and play Smash and maybe put a little money down.
Yeah. It's hard to defend Nintendo when I don't agree with it.
I don't know. I think Nintendo had a right to shut it down because when it is their personal property, and they didn't intend it to be used that way. They intended it to be used, for private use, not so much like a commercialization use of it. And Connor, you said something about like them putting down money for it. I mean, that's kind of like gambling in a sense, but I know most tournaments are kind of like run that way, either through like comic book stores or like local nerd hubs. So I don't know. It's just like a lot of gray area. Like it was kind of a rude move for like Nintendo to just be like, hey, shut it down, cease and desist. But I think they really are just trying to keep like their content in-house, and they really want people to enjoy their products, but they want them to enjoy it responsibly and legally. So I don't know. It just kind of, it's like a really gray area because you want like the community to have something, because everyone is just burnt out from this pandemic. So like something like this was really great in theory, but like I feel like they should have like reached out to Nintendo to like partner first, like, because people really respond to that kind of stuff. Like, if you come up with like a bunch of people who are saying, hey, we really want to do something special because of COVID this year, do you think you can like arrange something? I think Nintendo would have been accommodating enough to do something at least, you know.
I should make this clear from the top as well. I'm in full agreement with you guys on them having the right to do it. It is 100% in their right to shut this tournament down. I wasn't arguing that fact at all. That's, you know, it's their legal property. They own the rights to the IP and the franchise. Totally fine. I just think from a PR perspective, it was such a bad move to do something like that in the middle of a pandemic where they're already not selling any games because they didn't put anything out. And that's the biggest issue people have with Nintendo. They're like, oh, we don't want you, you know, Nintendo says, we don't want you emulating our games. We don't want you having this software in your computer or doing this. And everyone's like, well, re-release the games. Like you have all of this backlog of GameCube games that everyone loves that's just sitting there collecting dust. I'm like, you could throw those bitches in HD and you would make so much money. I mean, even when they didn't work hard, like the Super Mario 3D All-Stars game, which is pretty abysmal in terms of its content, people still bought it. Like that game sold out so quickly because it's Nintendo and it's old Nintendo that people can't really play right now. So I don't know. It doesn't make sense. Their whole business model has never made sense to me, but you know, they make money. So,
I mean, it's kind of similar to like if you take Among Us, for example, like it was an indie game that nobody really noticed. And then it just kind of like blew up overnight. And now, like when you try and play it, you have to like either if you play it on PC or Nintendo, because they launched it on Nintendo Switch recently. You have to pay like that $5 fee to play it. And like you can do an emulator and still kind of like play it on your PC, but you're kind of like going around the company and not like funding them. Whereas like on your phone, you can play it for free with like the ads or whatever. But I mean, it's kind of like a similar situation where it's like it's discouraged to emulate it and still kind of like do like the online competitiveness of it. But
at least Among Us has the option. Like you can buy the game right now for $5. There's nowhere on the Nintendo Switch where you can buy a GameCube game, and to me that's the difference. Because like if I had the option to pay $20, you know, they did like Nintendo Classics or something, and they brought back the Virtual Console, and you could be like, all right, every GameCube game is updated to HD. Obviously, it's going to run kind of shitty because it's on a Switch, and that thing is way underpowered. But at least it's in widescreen and HD, and they're like $20. $20 for every single game. Pick what you want. You can play it. Maybe we add online functionality to these as well, so we can like get that player base going. Like that to me is the easiest business decision in the world. You have all of that data. You own all of that data that you can just upscale to 1080p, throw it out there, and slap a $20 price tag on. And for them to not do that, I think is incredibly stupid.
I mean, they did that with previous titles in the past, like Pokemon for like the Nintendo 3D XL. And I think the way that they did it, I think they were like testing the waters a little bit. So like they re-released the original 3 Pokemon, which were like Pokemon Yellow, Pokemon Blue, and Pokemon Red. And then they also, I think, released, well, they did like the Heart Gold and Soul Silver, but that was for like the DS way back in the day, and they remastered it. But like with a lot of like Nintendo stuff, they had like a thing where you can play a lot of the older games if you subscribe to like Nintendo's version of like Nintendo Live or Nintendo Gold or whatever it's called, where you just pay like the monthly subscription or you pay yearly, and you have access to like this like old video game arcade. But it only had like some of the stuff from, I would say, like the Nintendo 64. They didn't really have a lot of like GameCube stuff, and I don't know whether or not that's because they're considering translating or like remastering it like they did with some titles and just like selling them as separate discs. But I do like what you're saying is just basically have like a GameCube pack, market it, sell it, put it on the Switch, $20, you have access to all these old GameCube titles. I mean, PlayStation did it, why can't any other organization or company?
Yeah, and the Nintendo online service right now is $20 a year.
Yeah, it's
which
pricey.
Is crazy cheap. And I wouldn't even mind if they were like, hey, it's going to go up to $40 a year, but now you get all these GameCube games and N64 games and maybe even Game Boy Advance games. I'd be like, I would get that in a heartbeat. Like that $20 wouldn't even, it would be such an easy decision for me.
What do you get now with it?
Right now, all you get a select amount of NES and SNES games. This is just for the Switch. On the Wii U, which is the main reason why they're fucking up so much right now, because that was such a failure. The Wii U had, or it allowed you to get everything except GameCube. So it was like even DS games are on there, Game Boy Advance games, Wii games. Like it basically had everything but GameCube. This only has NES and SNES, and it's been going on. The Switch has been out for 5 years now, so only having that library is, you know, a little bit. I would say even a little bit more than a little bit disappointing. Chris, how do you feel being a new? Sorry, Chris Blankenship. How do you feel being a relatively new Switch owner? And because you haven't had it that long, right?
Like a year, but I don't play it too often because I share it with Hannah.
Okay, so that was going to be my thing of like, has the content gotten stale for you yet? Because I've owned it for a while, or my brother at least has owned it for a while, and I feel like that content is run dry. But for you, you still might be kind of getting into some of the stuff.
So I'll say Pokemon is super stale for me. I haven't even like completed it yet. I think I have Sword. And then I have like Mario Kart and Mario Party, and those games I play a lot. But again, I haven't beaten those games.
Yeah, the main.
What's that?
Oh, I was just gonna say the main one for me was Odyssey. Like that was what stole my time when I first got that Switch, because that game is so good.
I think we have it. I don't even think I've loaded it up. The majority of my time has been Pokemon, and I played like the first DLC. I don't even know if I've loaded up a second DLC. I just don't care.
That game gets pretty old fast.
Yeah.
It's the same thing that we were doing in, 1997 with Pokemon Red. Like nothing's changed with the series, and it really needs an overhaul for sure.
It actually has changed in a pretty worse way, in my opinion, with the Dynamaxing and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, all the gimmicks are really bad. I wish they would stop doing that.
Anything like what was the one that first came out in 3D on the 3DS?
Are you talking about like the remaster of like Pokemon Sapphire and Pokemon Ruby?
I think you're talking about X and Y, right?
X and Y, that's what it was. Anything before that, I think I really enjoyed, and then everything after X and Y, I think hasn't been as good.
Yeah, the one gimmicky one that I actually thought was really fun was the Coliseum. I guess the Coliseum series.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed, because the idea of stealing other trainers' Pokemon I think is really cool. Like I think that's a neat idea, and it plays really well in terms of like, you're not running through the grass trying to catch Pokemon in this one. You're visiting different cities and like kind of metropolis areas, and then you're just stealing Pokemon from players. And as a kid, I was like, oh, this is so cool. And I still think it's a great idea. But the new gimmicks like the Dynamaxing and the Alolan form and all this crap, I'm like, I don't care. It's so pointless to gameplay, and it really the Dynamax button is just like, hey, are you tired of pressing A lot? Just win this match, and that's really it.
I really want to see. You kind of asked earlier what we want to see like going forward from Nintendo. I kind of want to see. I think I talked about this before. The Pokemon Gale of Darkness.
Yes.
Either maybe not a remaster, but maybe something like building on like that functionality with the Shadow Pokemon.
Yeah, a sequel to either of those games would be awesome. I totally agree.
Yeah. The one thing that really disappoints me about Nintendo and what I'd like to see in the future for them is maybe like give us more for our buck. Like paying for Nintendo just feels wrong. I feel like they just joined that because they realized how much money they could be making, like how Sony and Xbox have been making cash money off of it. I think Nintendo was like, oh, people are actually paying for online services, so let's make these games that didn't really, need a paywall for these online services. Let's start charging them for it. And like, it's very apparent in like games like Pokemon Shield and Sword, where like you really need like the internet access and you need the Nintendo Pass to be able to do certain things, like have the DLC and be able to just like, have, full range. I mean, they try to, patch it to where it's like you can still get like the Pokemon through Wonder Trade if you don't want to download the DLC and stuff like that. But I feel like it's just not enough bang for the buck that you're paying.
No, and the fact that they like got rid of when the base game came out, that half the Pokemon weren't available, that was a huge problem.
And they're still not. Like that's the main thing for me is like we're paying like on top of the regular amount for the supposed like Nintendo Plus, we're also paying for like Pokemon Home, which is like an additional like $8 to $10, you know, a year. I mean, or depending on like how far you do it in advance. I think I did mine like every 3 months. But it's like it's expensive, and like I just want to put my Pokemon all in one place because I've been playing since like the OG games, and I want to keep playing with the same Pokemon I grew up with because I love that nostalgia factor that you can still have like, you know, like your old Charizard from when you were like 5.
Yeah, and when they were asked about it too, it was like it was almost insulting. They were like, why aren't all the Pokemon in here? They're like, we didn't feel like it. I'm like, what? You make this game. What are you talking about? You didn't feel like it. It's your job. Like, it was the most ridiculous answer.
I think part of it was to sell DLC.
Yeah.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. They just wanted to lie and be like, oh, it was too hard.
Well, it turned me off of it because, like I'm kind of a perfectionist when I play games. Like I like to 100% it or whatever, and I feel like when I was close to the original 400 in Sword, I was like, well, I'm just gonna have to redo this in a little bit when the DLC comes out, and then again when the next DLC comes out.
Yeah. My 100% is still only 50%.
Yeah.
Like, I can't complete this. So yeah, no, I totally understand that. Yeah, I guess in terms of like what I definitely want to see though, obviously the retro titles coming to either remade or just put back on some kind of virtual console. They need to bring that back. It was a great feature of the Wii U. For some reason they got rid of it. And then Metroid. It's been years since I've had any sort of mainstay in the Metroid series. The last main title was Other M, which is sad. And man, Prime 4, I'm excited for. We need a new 2D Metroid. All those other ones need to get brought forward. I'm the only one that cares about this, I know, but
I was just thinking, Connor, if you recommend me, are there any Metroid games on Switch right now? Any good ones that you'd recommend?
On Switch, there aren't. They haven't put out, which is also kind of weird because it's been out for 5 years and there's no Metroid title. If you really wanted to start, I would say start with like Fusion and Zero Mission, which are on the Game Boy. You can, I'm not recommending, but you can, I'm not saying you can emulate those, but it's out there. But I would definitely start with those two. And then if you like that, maybe go into like the 3D GameCube, like Prime 2, stuff like that. And then I think the most hardcore one is probably Super Metroid, which I actually don't love. I think it's pretty dated at this point. I know it's like everybody's favorite, but a remake of that game would be awesome with like new physics and they redo all the maps and stuff. But yeah, that's kind of my, and then whatever the Switch Pro is, because they need a new console because the Switch is like pathetically underpowered.
I think what they're trying to do is they're trying to make it into like a home entertainment system, kind of like how the PS4 is and the PS5 is going to be. Because like they just like announced like a teaser with Funimation, and I don't know if you guys know this, but Funimation also kind of like bought out Crunchyroll, which is like an anime streaming platform. So that was like their main competition. So I think maybe like Nintendo is trying to gear up to do maybe some like anime related stuff in addition to their games. And maybe kind of have like an entertainment console, not just a regular console, which is something I would love to see in the future as well from them, because I use my Switch like when I go to the bathroom or like when I am like eating dinner, like I'll prop it up and I'll watch YouTube videos. Like I'll watch Cody Ko and Noah Miller. Sometimes I'll watch you guys. So it's like, it's a really fun way. And I that was one feature I was really hoping for since they got rid of the browser on the Nintendo systems. That was one thing I really missed about having like a Nintendo 3DS was like the browser, and they totally got rid of that in the Switch. So it would be something new and exciting to see from them.
So Nintendo, correct me if I'm wrong, but Nintendo bought Funimation, which bought Crunchyroll?
No, Nintendo didn't buy Funimation. They partnered with Funimation, who bought Crunchyroll. Yeah.
Okay. That makes a lot of sense because a lot of the games they've been either putting out or are going to put out have been anime based, or like the old anime games that they're now sort of dredging up and trying to do again. So that, I mean, I think that partnership makes a lot of sense. I think there's definitely some crossover with like Nintendo fans and anime fans. I think that's like a really smart partnership.
Most definitely. I think it's a really good partnership for both of them to kind of continue their longevity, like their brand longevity. Because I don't really know like how far things are going to go with Animal Crossing, which was like they're pretty much home staple for the this whole pandemic. That was like their main selling point for the Switch this year was Animal Crossing, Animal Crossing, Animal Crossing. It was kind of like the opposite of like that Pokemon Go summer we had with Niantic. So
Exactly what it is.
Yeah.
I mean, how perfect was COVID for Nintendo?
I mean it's like a perfect storm.
They literally couldn't have planned that better for Animal Crossing coming out and then selling a bunch of Switches. Like, I mean, this pandemic has been horrible, but for that one aspect for Nintendo, I mean, that's a gold mine.
Yeah. It was a cash cow for them, and they monopolized every bit of it. Like going back to the online features, if you wanted to like play with your friends on Animal Crossing, you had to pay into the Nintendo Premium service to have access to even visit your friends' islands. If you didn't pay into it, you were basically stuck playing the game by yourself.
Right. Yeah. So yeah, and they just they were able to sell literally all of their services at once with Animal Crossing. It was genius.
Yeah.
All right. Well, it was nice to be able to touch up on that. I was curious about what you guys like thought and what you guys were hoping for. Do you have any like final thoughts, I guess, before we move on to the next topic?
I'm good, Chris.
I second the Animal Crossing stuff because literally 3 out of 4 people, and that one that isn't included in that is me, were playing Animal Crossing like every day back whatever May or whatever it came out.
Yeah, it did seem like for a while every single person on all of my social media platforms were playing Animal Crossing. I was like, wow, I had no idea this would be that popular.
3 out of 3 Switches were constantly running that game here.
Yeah. All right. Well, the next thing I wanted to discuss was we didn't really get to do this last week because I just kind of forgot. But 2020, quite a year, as we brought up before. Full of ups, lots more downs. And I was just curious, one of the ups I wanted to talk about was just media related. What you guys saw this year, maybe what you guys listened to, heard, whatever. What were your sort of top media related things for this year? So they could be movies, TV shows, music. I kind of just wanted to go around the room and see what everybody was thinking for that. So Chris, I guess we'll start with you. What was your favorite? We'll start with movies. What was your favorite movie for this year?
Which Chris?
Oh,
Yeah,
sorry.
Chris.
Yeah. Chris Blankenship.
Favorite movies?
You can just do like one general one, I guess.
Yeah, so I have 2 in mind.
Okay.
Because I know they both came out or I watched them this year.
That's not what I said, but all right.
What did you say?
No, I'm kidding. I said just do one, and you were like, I have 2. I was like, all right, fine.
Well, I'm trying to think because this year has felt so long, and I don't even
really
remember movies like the first half of this year.
Yeah.
Tenet recently was really good. I can't recommend that movie enough. And after I did my research, I understood it a lot more. It's a very confusing movie your first watch. I also watched Spike Lee's movie The Five Bloods, which I really enjoyed. I watched that like earlier this year. So those are my top 2.
Okay, I haven't seen the Spike Lee one. Is that the movie that was like the last one Chadwick Boseman filmed, or am I thinking of something else?
I think Ma Rainey's Black Bottom was the last one Chadwick Boseman filmed.
Yeah, I think
that's exactly what I'm thinking of. Yep. Okay, Chris, what were your top picks?
Well, we all know my favorite movie this year has not been Wonder Woman 1984. That we won't even talk about that. Surprisingly, I've recently gotten heavily into HBO Max because I'm a DC fanboy. And I'll say for like television series that's like totally bingeable, Titans. I was so against it when it first came out, and for the exact same reasons you're thinking. And I changed my tune because it was like that Paramore album. I think it's like Happy After or something like that, where they had like this really like teeny popper vibe, and I was like, what is this? This is not Paramore. And I kind of did the same thing with the Titans. I was like, what is this? No.
Is that the Hard Times album?
Hard Times, yes, that's what it was.
Okay. That's what I thought.
But that album, I came back to it like years later, and I was like, this bumps. Like every song from this album bumps. And I did the same thing with Titans, where it was like, okay, the first episode was actually pretty decent. The writing, pacing, everything was all good. And like some of the decisions they made that we like ridiculed them, like the fan base is who I'm referring to when I say we, it actually made sense why they did some of those things. So I'll say that for television shows, and you probably already know what I'm going to say for music. Album of the year for me was definitely Ariana Grande's new album.
I knew it.
I don't care what you say. Slaps. I have absolutely no taste.
No, I like that album a lot, actually.
I think it was one of her best albums, like to date. Like other than Sweetener, which everybody hates. Like I thought it was a lot better.
I like Sweetener.
Oh. This is why your daddy.
That was the saddest. That was Sweetener. Honey, no. No, I like that. I think that album's actually pretty good.
It bumps. It has some good tracks. I'm not gonna
It's
lie.
not as good as Thank You Next. I think that one's better, but I still like it.
I mean, I'm on the fence because, you know, I just
It's now the Ariana Grande podcast. I'm switching it over.
I'm so sorry, Chris. We'll go back to your regularly scheduled podcast.
So what was your favorite movie of the year? I know I feel like I didn't see a lot, but you know, of the stuff that I guess you did see, what was your favorite?
I don't know, to be honest. Like there were so many good movies that were supposed to like come out this year that I was really looking forward to, and I haven't really had the chance to watch any like films other than maybe what was posted on Netflix or HBO Max. Yeah, I don't know. That's a really good question. 2019, I could tell you my favorite movie was Midsummer.
That movie's such a mess.
Ari Aster is like undefeated. He is like my new king of horror. He has like dethroned Wes Craven.
Oh, that's a bold statement. Ari Aster doesn't know how to end a film.
I don't know. I disagree. There's a lot of like cameo stuff like you have to like pay attention to, and like it's like very like rewatchable. Like you have to like rewatch it in order to like see some of this stuff. And it kind of makes you become a fan. And like he does horror so well because Wes Craven's basic ideals of horror was that it has to include, or at least one of the tenets was, it has to include some form of humor, like dark humor or dark comedy to make it a true horror movie. Like if it's not campy, you know, it has to have some element of comedy to it to balance it out and make it truly scary because it makes it relatable.
Yeah.
And in Midsummer and in, you know, Hereditary, you can see those throughout his films. So I don't know.
No, for sure. I think
Yeah.
my biggest problem with Ari Aster, I think his films are incredibly well done.
Yeah.
And the first 2/3 of both of those movies I adore. I think they're absolutely fantastic. The problem with me is the ending for both because he's so ambiguous in his directing and his writing, and he leaves a lot to the imagination, which I enjoy,
That's true.
especially in Hereditary, because Hereditary starts out, it's fucking incredible. Like it's one of the best horror movies I've ever seen. But then at the end, he's like, oh, it's actually about demons, and here's everything that happened. And he lays it all out for you, and then the movie just ends. And it's like he has the worst endings, I think, for a film that's so high quality. He has the worst endings of any director. And the same thing with Midsummer. They're like, oh, actually, yeah, she's the May Queen, and now we're gonna burn this thing down. I'm like, what the fuck? You were so like non-implicit about the rest of this movie, and right at the end, you're gonna be explicit and be like, okay, here's exactly what it was. It's the same problem with Us. Us is like you don't know why there are clones until the end, and they're like, here's why they're clones. It's government shit and blah blah blah. And I'm like, what the fuck?
I don't know. I disagree with you about the Ari Aster thing because I think what he's setting up is like his own cinematic universe, and I like that he ties in each element of the movie so far. Like so, Hereditary and Midsummer both kind of have like this weird like cult, except like in Midsummer it was like a European branch essentially, and you know it's. They're kind of worshiping the same kind of like demonic entity in a sense. So I feel like he's kind of becoming like a new MCU. Like you know, like this is like his cinematic universe moment where, you know, we don't know if his next film because he writes, directs, and I think films like everything all together. Like he does everything pretty much all on his own. So I think like to look out for in 2021 and maybe beyond, Ari Aster, 100%.
I think there's a lot of potential there. And again, I love in the beginnings of his movies where, especially Hereditary, where it's like, it's supposed to be mental illness that's passed down, but personified through possession, which I thought was a really interesting theme. And I thought was, you know, it's a very interesting tenet or to like base the rest of your movie on. But my problem is at the end when it becomes literal demons and actual cults, and like it just I don't know, it loses me a lot when it turns into like the sort of mumbo jumbo generic horror stuff that you get normally, because this movie does such a good job with not doing jump scares. There's one scene in the movie and it haunts me to this day, but it's when she's in her garage and the lights are off in the garage, and she's like kind of staring off into the distance, and it shows her view, and all it shows is a dark room, and it takes your eyes a second because like you're just looking around trying to see what she's looking at, and then you see a silhouette of the grandmother, and like it takes you a minute to catch on to it being there, and then as soon as you realize it is, she turns on the lights and it's gone. So it's not like someone going boo, like it's not like a jump scare. It's like actual horror. It's like real world horror, and that's what I think he's so good at. But his endings are so bad. I just wish, I don't know. But if okay, should I do mine now? I guess
let us know.
Okay. I didn't see a lot this year, and I definitely didn't see a lot in theaters. But I don't know if this is my favorite movie, but one that I saw that I thought was way better than I thought it was going to be was The Invisible Man.
No, Connor. No.
Oh, what? You didn't like it?
No, it was absolutely garbage. Okay, first of all, we're going to talk about good old Fivehead here, okay? Phenomenal actress. I cannot stand her.
You're talking about Elizabeth Moss. Just
yes,
for everybody.
I love her. I loved her in Mad Men. But I don't know what it, like something about like her facial features. It's the same thing with Benedict Cumberbatch for me. Like I cannot physically stand seeing them on screen. I don't know what it is. I can't. Like both of them just set me off, and I'm just like, but like, okay, first of all, I don't know why you thought this movie was good, because literally in like the first 10 minutes into the film, she's like, okay, I gotta time this just right, and like she's like escaping, and then she meets her sister at the car, like, you know, just like it's a regular degular, and her sister's like, oh, go, what are we doing, like, and then she's like, drive, like clearly she already done drugged her man, like she roofied him so he'd fall asleep, and like, you know, she woke the dog up by like opening up the garage and being loud as hell. And like, it was so dramatic. And then you get to that scene, and then like her husband's like right there at the window. He's like, what are you doing? And he's like, oh, and then the sister's like, oh my God, maybe I should actually drive. Like, you know, like that to me, that turned me off 100%. And then it gets worse, Connor. I don't know how you can defend this movie, because literally there's one scene where she's like talking
the title.
Because there's one scene where she's like living with the like her best friend, like her sister's like best friend or whatever, or her ex-husband or whatever.
Yeah.
And like the daughter and her are like having like a really heartfelt conversation, and like Elizabeth Moss's ex-husband in the film kind of like he's thought to be dead, but he's like playing mind games with her by being invisible. And like one of the things he does is he pimp slaps, like he physically like pimp slaps the little girl across the room while Elizabeth Moss is talking to her, but she's like 3 feet away, like she's COVID distancing away from this lady, and like she physically flings across the room, and then she's like, Dad, she hit me. Like
listen,
what?
Okay,
she's like a string bean.
let me defend some parts. I agree with you on that. I do. This movie is not perfect. That's why I said it's not my favorite movie of the year or anything. But it was just, to me, it was surprisingly good, because I thought it was an interesting take on that like kind of tired story and that old story of the Invisible Man. I thought it was an interesting update with the technology of his suit. I thought it was interesting what they were able to do with such a low budget, like a Blumhouse budget. I thought for the most part, it was pretty well acted, especially coming from Elizabeth Moss. I thought she did like any other actress, I think would have made that situation where you're being dragged by nobody like ridiculous, but she actually managed to make it like tense and scary.
Yeah, that's true. She's
and
actress.
I also thought that the film was just well directed. Like it was the same guy that did Upgrade, which is also a well directed movie. And again, no budget, but still looks pretty good. So that one was surprising to me, and I thought it was the last movie I saw in theaters, so maybe that's also why I have a little bit of a soft spot for it. But the other two I was going to say, Tenet, absolutely, Chris. I'm with you on that one. Tenet is awesome. And it came out last year, but I didn't see it until January or it came out 2019, but I didn't see it till January of 2020, and that was Parasite, which is one of the best films I've ever seen. So that one, yeah, if anyone, and I've recommended this movie like 3 times on this podcast now, but for anyone who hasn't seen it, it's great. And then I probably won't do songs, but for album, I would say Amine, Limbo. I still listen to that album. That album's great.
Connor, that's one of my top 2 albums of the year.
Oh yeah,
yeah. I had a feeling you were going to suggest that.
Yeah. What were your other ones, Chris? Because I think you just did movie, right?
Yeah. So Limbo and Legends Never Die from Juice WRLD. It's probably my other one.
Oh yeah,
really
same. That's a great album.
Yeah.
And then did you have a TV show one? You were watching probably more TV than I was.
Not really. I think I don't watch a lot of TV. The only one I think I watched was A Teacher, the Hulu about the teacher who like grooms her student, which is based off a film from 2013.
Was that the Hulu one? The Hulu version?
Yeah, it has Kate Mara in it, and I don't know the
Nick Robertson, something like that.
Oh, the guy from Love, Simon.
Yeah,
yes.
Same guy.
Yeah, it's a pretty good show. I'd recommend that.
Yeah, it's a little surface level at points, which I think we both were kind of talking about. But it's a solid watch for sure.
By default, but it's my top. But I think there's a point where it shifted for me, and it kind of got like, really, this is where we're going with it now. But
yeah, I didn't love the time skips. Sometimes I feel like that's lazy, right? There's a lot of time skips in this where it's like implied time that's happened, but no growth, like or character development happens.
Yeah. And
I think that's super lazy. But can I cheat and say Watchmen? It came out end of 2019, but can I can I say that was my favorite show of 2020?
I say yes.
Okay.
I don't think there's that many rules.
No, fuck it. It's my show. I can do what I want. No, I would say Watchmen for sure. I can't recommend it to everybody because it is a weird show. Like there are a lot of people who will not like it.
I disagree. I recommend it to everybody because not only is it like educational in like the first episode, because you literally learn like a part of America's history and you think it's fiction, but it's actually true. And what I'm referring to here is like the Tulsa massacres. For those of you who aren't familiar with the program or with history. Really dark stuff, and we don't cover it in school. And I learned that from a fictional show about a comic book that was a continuation. Like,
no, I thought it was fake. I knew
fake.
It took place in Tulsa, Oklahoma, but I didn't. I just assumed that it was like a fake thing in the Watchmen universe that was going to lead into something else. And then I was listening
they used real events.
Yeah, no, I was listening to the Damon Lindelof podcast that he put out after Watchmen came out, which is great. You guys should all listen to that as well as ours. But he was talking about how he didn't know about it, and he was doing research about Tulsa, Oklahoma, and he came across these massacres, and he was like, how was this not taught in schools? How does nobody know about this? And it's really interesting, in our sort of whitewashed version of history that we learn in elementary and middle school. It was just an interesting thing I mean, there's also like superheroes and superpowered people and giant squids and
like 14-inch blue dildos
and blue dildos and
I mean, that's the real takeaway here.
Yeah, I thought it was awesome. I thought it was like a masterclass in television. But it's fun. I talked to my dad, and maybe that's why I have this feeling. But I was talking to my dad about it, and he said he watched like episode 1 or maybe 1 and 2, and he was like, I hate that show. He was like, it doesn't make any sense. I don't get it. I think he wasn't really willing to put in the time for it, which I understand. But I think you really have to be sort of committed to watching that entire show if you're going to do it. Like you can't sort of half-ass jump in because then you're not going to like it.
That's true.
Yeah. But yeah, best show for me, Watchmen. I really hope season 2, but I don't think we're going to get it.
Oh, I just thought of another show that I've watched, and I don't know if you guys, it's kind of reality TV show. I've watched 2 shows all year. It's A Teacher and Welcome to Plathville. Have you guys heard of that? I think that's also on Hulu or YouTube TV. It's like it's just like this like super religious Christian fundamentalist family who like has all these strict rules and fucks their children up.
Oh, okay.
Yikes.
So are they part of like a commune, or is it like
no, it's just the family, but they don't allow internet access. It's almost like I shouldn't say it is a cult. They like don't allow internet access. They homeschool their kids and teach them like what the Bible is basically, and that's it. Like some of the kids are older and like have moved out of the family, and all the ones that have moved out of the family are like they're fucking people up. And they didn't even know like what Independence Day was celebrating. Like that's how bad the homeschooling was, because they only taught the Bible.
just religious studies, and that's kind of
it's just like this super like Christian fundamentalist family, and it was interesting to watch. If you watch the first episode and like it, but if you don't,
I'm surprised they would let cameras in to record their lifestyle,
Yeah, that's one of the things that people are like, because they don't have like, I think they have like one computer. It's a parent and 9 kids, I think. But yeah, it's like something was just weird, like how like it was produced by TLC.
Is it like the kids are like Josiah, Jeremiah, Jedediah?
There's a lot of not crossover, but like similarities between this family and like the Duggar family, who were like had a lot of kids and were super fundamentalists.
Yeah,
like
okay.
Oh.
I remember that was 18. Oh, sorry, that's the 18 plus whatever show, right? They had like 18 kids.
Yeah, and then
Johnny K
like
plus 8.
Yeah, that one too. Yeah.
Yeah, I was thinking it's kind of like the shows that they had where like the girls escape from Mormonism. Have you seen those? Like, I think TLC is the one that does a lot of that kind of stuff too.
Yeah, I don't think they're Mormons or Latter-day Saints or anything like that. It's like their
like
own fucking
sect.
religious
That's
cult that
crazy.
they have made.
That's so crazy.
Wait, so that's your favorite show of the year?
Honestly, it might be just because it's kind of dramatic and shit. Like, I don't want to spoil too much, and you won't even know about this till you get to season 2. But like, the mom accidentally like ran over her 2-year-old, and like that's a whole thing.
Oh,
what?
Wow. Yeah, it's kind of a crazy show. You kind of have to watch it.
Yeah, now you got me intrigued.
I'm low-key scared to watch that.
Yeah.
Chris, what time are we at right now? Just so I can figure out
45-ish minutes.
Okay. I think we should probably just go right into the mystery topic. And then
Okay.
All
right. Well,
I'm really excited for this.
Okay. So I kind of came in not knowing what exactly to talk about. There's so many things we could talk about from 2021 and 2020. And we're only like 5 days into 2021. So my mystery topic for you guys today is Twitch is rolling out a new policy on getting rid of certain words such as incel and simp. This new policy will take effect on January 22nd, 2021. I'm going to read like a little bit of an excerpt, and then I want to get your guys' like thoughts on this.
Okay.
So basically they're saying they're no longer going to allow streamers and commenters to go around calling one another simps, which, if for people listening to the podcast, it's a term that normally refers to like men who seem desperate for a woman's attention, or
they'll spend money on her and stuff like that.
Yeah. So, they said if you use these kinds of terms, you will be banned if you're using it as an insult under this new policy. And including on these list of words are the words incel and virgin, and that's coming from their COO Sarah Clemens. And it's interesting, but it becomes a little problematic for people who kind of like capitalize or utilize like phrases for their usernames, like mine being straightcheekz. So like, are people not allowed to be like punny anymore? Is this too PC? Are like, because they're saying they won't ban you if you're simply using it in your name, like Atlanta Phase's simp. But it's interesting to see how far censorship is spreading, even on such a popular like platform meant to give content creators and their communities freedom of expression. But it's just so interesting that they want to include like stricter rules around sexual harassment, to give Twitch a little bit more a leeway to ban streamers and commenters who make offensive comments. But like, they're also expanding this, not just like if you use the terms, but like if you guys are familiar with Twitch, you can use like emotes to like react to somebody's like stream.
Right.
If your emotes include things like simp or incel or virgin or whatever, they will also ban your account.
This feels like
What are
it's
your guys'
solving a
thoughts?
non-existent problem.
Yeah. Well, the only problem I could, Chris, are you done with the?
Yeah.
Okay. I didn't want to cut you off. The only problem I could maybe get from this is cyberbullying.
Yeah.
Like maybe, I don't know. Like if you're in a Twitch chat and you donate to your favorite e-girl and somebody calls you a simp, I don't know. Maybe your feelings get hurt.
I feel like simp is the great equalizer though. Like if everybody's doing it, then if everyone on like how are you gonna have Twitch without simps?
Yeah, that was also my thought.
I just
I
thought
know,
it's crazy. Like, how are you gonna ban like certain words like that? And then like a reaction, like Twitter and like other users from like other social media platforms like Reddit, they're like now saying that, oh, you know, instead of saying simps, we're gonna start saying kings. Like, and you can't like how are you gonna flip the switch?
That's a great response.
I don't get it. Like,
so this to me just feels like the same thing, like the cuck era.
yeah.
Like everybody was using cuck, and I still love that word is so funny, but this just feels like the next version of that, and then it'll be something else 2 years from now. Like it's just a phase. It's not, you know,
Yeah.
people are gonna call everybody a simp, and then they'll call everybody like, I don't know, whatever word pops up next. So no, I think it's ridiculous for Twitch to ban this. I think that's very silly.
Do you know, is there like different levels of banning, or is it just
So from what I'm familiar with is like they're gonna ban your account. Like you cannot access the platform again under your original like Twitch name. And I don't know if that means like you're like shadow banned or if that means like you're banned. If you're just gonna be like, you know, on a little hiatus for like 10 days or whatever. I mean, a lot of people are like protesting it, saying that they're still gonna use this terminology because the policy doesn't really kick in until like the 22nd of this month. And it's the 5th that we're filming this today. So we've got a little bit of time, but I just thought it was interesting considering how like my name is kind of like a pun off of like my own sexuality. So it was like, you know, because I'm kind of like poking fun at myself while also poking fun of the fact that I'm terrible at gaming. Like, and like if they can like ban me for that, like that's crazy. That's incredulous. I can't believe it.
It's like,
so I wanted to get your take.
Well, to me, it's like, where's the line? Like,
Yeah.
is this seems like it's so over the top that like, what if it is like if someone calls someone straight and they're not like your thing, like it feels like you can really just fire the ban gun at anybody for anything that they say. And this is a site where it's meant to be people communicating with one another and like sharing the fun experience of, you know, playing video games or commenting over songs or movies or watching girls strip on camera. It's whatever whatever people decide to do on. I don't know, whatever you want. But it seems weird that you would start, you know, throwing down the ban hammer for something stupid as like simp. I don't know.
Well, I think that's a bigger censorship discussion
Mm-hmm.
because like Reddit started off like completely like we don't want to censor anybody and things like that, and then you have like alt-right people who do terroristic threats. I shouldn't say alt-right. Everybody doing terroristic threats and stuff on there, and they have to start banning people, and YouTube does it. And when you get to a certain like when as a company they get to a certain level, they have to start censoring things, you know, because it's going to affect their bottom line or open themselves up to lawsuits or, you know, whatever. They were on this platform, so we're going to sue this platform, and they don't want to have that happen. But for this, I mean, is it sexual harassment? Like, it's not. You mentioned that, Chris. I mean,
I don't know. Like, if I called like Connor a virgin, like I guess they would like ban me.
I guess so.
But it's like even if I didn't like mean it, like what if I was just joking around like on a Twitch stream and I was like, "Oh, you virgin," like, you know?
Yeah, no,
like that's I don't know. I guess I think it's funny, but
yeah,
I guess like the general consensus is it's not something to be joked about, like somebody's sexual preferences and advances.
Is simping a sexual preference?
I mean, I think it's like sexual harassment is what they coined it, which I also think is hilarious.
It's your sexual like, yeah, I guess not preference. Well, I don't know what the like experience.
I mean, they're saying it's like a term of sexual harassment. Like if you calling somebody a simp, that's like it's basically like you're slut shaming them.
I meant like that lifestyle.
Yeah.
Like if you
Yeah.
engage in that lifestyle, what that would be called.
I
Like,
guess.
I guess sexual. I don't know.
I don't know. That's a gray area even for me as someone who's a part of the LGBTQIA community. I don't know where the line ends and where it begins. Like it's such an open-ended policy, and I feel like it opens up a door that shouldn't really be opened.
I'm gonna say, like, personally, this is just personal. I'm not speaking for anybody else here. I think it's fine, and I think that people calling people that is totally fine, because I have never seen someone use the word simp for malintent. It has only ever been for comedy. And show me one time it's happened where it's been like actually malicious, and I'll take it all back. But I really have only seen people like, oh, you simp, you're on here. Yeah, it's always like for comedy. So I don't know.
Chris, you had some thoughts? he's so out of breath. This is a great topic, wasn't it? It was a great mystery topic.
This is a great topic. Yeah. I don't know. These incels need to grow some thicker skin.
If they're the ones complaining about it, then that's even more ridiculous. Yeah. Like,
I don't know if it was like a complaint thing, or if Twitch was just seeing like a lot of streams with this, and they were getting a lot of reports like, oh, somebody like they called me a simp, or like, somebody called me an incel, or somebody called me a virgin. Like, I don't know. Like, I would think it would be more towards protecting women streamers. Like, that's what I would think this policy should be for, is like if somebody was like objectifying a woman when she didn't want to be objectified, which is like pretty much 100% of the time. So it's like they're just here to game, or they're just here to chat and make a little coin. Like, secure the bag, sis. But like I feel like it would be more towards protecting them, and I feel like it didn't come across that way. I feel like this was like a very like tone deaf way to kind of like blanket them in there.
I think instead of banning the word simp, you ban abusive simpers.
Ooh, what do you mean by that?
I think that would have, like, if someone, like, who cares about the word simp? Like if I'm, I don't know, donating $100 every stream to some girl, but I'm being like verbally or abusive or whatever in the chat to her, she might not do something about it because I'm bankrolling her. You know what I mean?
That makes
she
sense,
she might feel in like a position where she doesn't have a choice.
That's a really good point, because it almost turns to like sexual harassment, because you could you feel like as a simp, if you donate, I guess you feel like you have the right to make certain advances to that girl or man, I guess, whoever you're simping.
That's true.
But it leads to some gray area about like, well, maybe you should just ban the people who are saying these horrible things and expecting to get away with it because they're paying money for it. That's an interesting. I never thought about it that way. That's an interesting perspective.
Chris, you're so deep. I love it.
Don't simp on me.
Oh no, I won't simp. I promise. I only simp for Connor because he's daddy.
That's true.
Just look at that hair and that luscious beard. My God, I haven't seen this man in like 2 years. I am thirsty. I am in the desert, and this man is my Gatorade, like thirst quenched. Okay, like seeing him in this like room right now, even though it's just virtual, it's just like it does things for me. It's just so great, so great. 10 out of 10. I couldn't ask for more.
I'm leaving all of this in.
Please do.
Please do. I want the world to know I love you, Connor. I'm always here for you. I don't care if I have a boyfriend. You'll be boyfriend number 1 in my heart.
You do have a boyfriend.
We're not using the B word yet. We've only been like a couple COVID dates, okay? Like, okay. We went on really cute dates. That's it.
I'm sorry. You have a male simp is what I meant to
say. No, it's not. If anything, I'm the simp in the relationship. Oh my God.
Oh my God. Well, on that note, Chris, what time are we at?
We're just about an hour.
It's about an hour. Okay. We can do our recommendations and then kind of wrap it up. Chris, AGN Chris, would you like to go first for your recommendation?
Sure. So behind me, you'll see this really cool gamer PC, and you would think that like my gay ass could actually like do something with my life. No, I actually bought this as a pre-build from nzxt.com. If you are somebody who's just starting to stream or do content creation, or even just like try and do online gaming, definitely recommend NZXT. They're, you know, super affordable, even if you just want to purchase parts. You know, they have a great like program where you can just like pick your own parts and then build your own PC. I just bought a pre-built. I didn't do a custom pre-build, but they do offer like payment plans and stuff, which I thought was really great. And most PC places are like this, so that would be my recommendation.
Cool. We're not sponsored, by the way. I just want to.
No,
That sounded like a sponsorship.
but if you guys wanted to sponsor either AGN or Split Screen Media, you can slide into the DMs.
Be more than happy to sponsor you, but you should be sponsored. That was really good. That was a great ad read.
Thank you. You know, I was born an actress. I didn't ask to be born Latina.
Chris, how about you?
My recommendation is going to be kind of like playing off of last week's, where I recommended Johnny Candino's YouTube channel. I'd recommend go checking out some of the World's Strongest Man clips on YouTube from this past year. I think they're finally starting to come out, because they don't come out for like a long time after the competition's over. But I think some of that stuff's coming out. Like I think I saw the finals video the other day. So
Okay, cool. We talked about it a little bit earlier, but mine recommendation is the Wii U. I bought one not that long ago because I really wanted to play like the virtual console, and there were a couple Wii U games that I missed, and I got one for like $80 because nobody wants them. And you know what? This console's actually pretty good. It may just be like a Switch prototype, but there's actually a lot of stuff in it that I think it does better than the Switch, and I wish that Nintendo would port over. So, you know, for all you Wii U lonely hearts out there, I'm with you, and it's a good console, like surprisingly good.
Connor, I joined a Facebook group the other day where they pretend it's like 2009 to 2012, and I feel like that was like the perfect like encapsulation of that.
So they just post like it's just like like, oh, I can't, you guys need to see Inception or something like that. Like,
yeah, I'll go to the top post real quick if I can find it.
Okay. While you're looking for that, Chris, do you want to maybe talk about your Twitch or talk about AGN? Just like do a little quick,
Sure.
like, you know, before we do the outros here, like where people can find you.
So if you guys are interested in learning more about me or about AGN, you can visit AGN at agnonline365.com, or you can visit any of my social media at straightcheekz, and it's spelled just like you would say it. There are some different variations to it, but you can find that on my YouTube channel, and you can also find that on AGN Online 365 or AGN's website. So yeah, definitely check that out. Check me out, you know, I'm cute or whatever. But definitely also shameless plug for Connor and Chris for having me here. This was just great today.
It was great having you.
Yeah, it really was great having you. Yeah, and do you have a schedule set up for Twitch yet, or are you still kind of working all that out for when you're going to be streaming?
I'm still working that out, but tentatively it's usually the weekends, usually Sundays from like 6 to 8 p.m. But that may change. I don't know.
Cool. And look forward to maybe seeing us on, I know you'd mentioned it before, it might be a little bit too early to say, but we were talking about maybe going on your guys' podcast when that gets set up and maybe doing a segment there, or like doing some kind of.
Yes, we would love to do that. Yeah, I don't know where we are yet. I can't disclose a whole lot of stuff again because of the NDA stuff. But definitely keep looking out for future collaborations with me and Split Screen Media and AGN and Split Screen Media. This was definitely fun, and I'd love to do more of this.
Yeah, it was great. So anyone watching us here, you know, from AGN, like if you'd like to subscribe, that'd be nice. And any one of our fans, go check out AGN. Their articles are awesome. I really like how thorough they are, and I enjoy just like the amount of stuff that you guys cover. I think is great. It's nice to have like that team that's really, like you were talking about early, diverse and you know, and really gets every single angle from all the news stories, which is great. Chris, did you find that Facebook page?
Yeah, it's just like a lot of like Hot Topic memes and like planking and shit like that.
Are they making like Harlem Shake videos and all that?
Yeah, there's like they're making fun of like a lot of the old apps. Like there's like the beer app on your iPhone. Do you remember where it looks like you're drinking a beer with your phone? Like, oh, that's stupid shit.
Oh man, that's great. All right, well, I think that's probably we'll probably go into outros here. Thanks so much, guys, for watching. We really appreciate it. Like and subscribe if you guys enjoy. Stay tuned. We're gonna have somebody new next week. Let us know if you want Chris back. We're definitely gonna have him back if he's interested. And yeah, again, check out AGN. Check out us if you're new here. Welcome, and we'll see you next time, guys. Bye, everybody.